up your engine! Now this is the 4th generation. It's got the fancy headlights. You can see it's completely restyled. It does not look like one of those older Priuses that were, truthfully, a little bit on the ugly side. With those 4 beams on the side, it's got a lot more style than it used to. But what makes the Prius Prime interesting, it's got a larger hybrid battery. The earlier Priuses only had a 1.6 kilowatt hour battery. This thing has an 8.8 kilowatt hour battery. Now, granted, that's nothing compared to a Tesla, where their fancy ones have 80 kilowatt hour batteries. This has 8.8, but that 8.8 is a lot more than the earlier Priuses. So this vehicle can be driven on electric only mode for a reasonable amount of time. And because of the engine and transmission setup in the Prime, this thing can go up to 80 miles an hour on electric mode only. And in this particular model, and I tested it out, it'd do it for about 24 miles. This isn't like when I tested the other day that went 200 feet and it turned the motor on automatically because that's all it could do. It can actually run at highway speeds for 25 miles or so on electricity only, then it switches over to the gasoline motor. Now when you combine a full tank of gas and a fully charged hybrid battery, this thing can go about 640 miles of range. If you're driving, say, 65 miles an hour, it can go a long way. And my customer who owns his 2017, he said the furthest he ever went before he had to refill the gas tank was 800 miles. Now this is driving it around town and then at night plugging it in. If you just charge it up fully and then fill up with gas, you can go about 640 miles. But if you keep plugging it in at home during your regular day driving, he said his record was a little over 800 miles before he had to put gas back in. And you might think, what does this have? 2 gas filler caps? There's one over here. Then we go to the other side. There's one over here, but no. This is the electric one. This is for charging the battery with. Got its own charger it comes with. And conveniently enough, this is a 110 volt charger. This then plugs into your outdoor charger, and this then just snaps right in. You heard it click, it's not rocket science. And you might think, well, that's gonna take forever. Well, in a Tesla it would because it's got that huge battery. This is an 8.8 kilowatt hour battery. If it's empty, it will fully recharge in about 5.5 hours of plugging it into your house. So you plug it in at night. You could also get a 220 volt one, but you'd have to have the 220 volt wired to your house, and it would charge it in 2.5 hours. But really, since it's a smaller battery, you can just use your regular 120, plug it in, and it'll take about 5.5 hours to be fully charged. And if your commute is less than a 25-mile round trip, you can run on electricity the whole time. But you never have to worry about being stranded, because when the electricity runs low on a hybrid battery, the engine just comes on. Then you've got hundreds and hundreds of miles you can drive with gasoline. So you don't have to worry about being stranded, something like you would in a purely electric car. Now it is somewhat of a niche car. A certain type of person is going to want this. The owner of this car, his previous car was also a Prius. He decided to get rid of when the transmission finally went out. He was happy with the first Prius because he got over 250,000 miles out of it, and he still was using the original battery. So, you know, you can't complain about that. And being an engineer, he loves all the technology that these things have. You can play around to your heart's content with these things. As you can see now, the battery is running the air conditioning, even though the car's not running the gasoline engine. This has an electric air conditioning compressor, so the engine doesn't have to run to make it work. The problem with a lot of cars are they might have a stop-go system, but if they don't have an electric air conditioning compressor, you're going to get hot and it's going to have to turn the engine back on to run the AC. This is not the case. My customer, who's an engineer, tested it and found out that he could sit here for more than 8 hours when the battery's charged with the air conditioning running and stay nice and cool. Now this particular Prius Prime 2017 came 3 different types: the basic, the better, and the best. This is the middle one. He was thinking about buying a basic one, but he said he got in this and he was spoiled by the way it rode, how quiet it was, and he bought this. He still was too cheap to buy the highest end one because he was totally happy with the mid-range one. Even the windows, they're set to stop sound and energy. The one big beef I had against Priuses in the past were they were kind of loud cars. You heard a lot of road noise while you're driving. This particular one, this Prime, the mid-range one, pretty quiet, I'll tell you. And if you like basic but interesting designs, I like the blue, but it's black and white, just like my cat. I think this is a stunning interior. It is a nice interior. People say the seats are a little bit too much Power Ranger, which my kids all watched when they were young, but I like it, and they're extremely comfortable. And when we go to the back, you can see, got a reasonable amount of room in the back too. And with this back, you can reach in the back easily. You want to pop the seats back, you get a lot of space. Well designed. Look at this. We didn't have to move the bottom seats. It goes pretty flat the way it is. This is a well-designed car. Now, in the past Priuses, people whined about a poor ride. This is the 4th generation one. Has a completely independent rear suspension. It rides quite well, as you're going to see. Start her out with a push button, but you don't hear anything because it's electric. Got a nice backup camera. Take the emergency brake off and away we go. No sounds at all except the wheels rolling. Only thing you can hear now is the fan blowing with the AC. Now we're taking off, so the motor's on. And you can still see it's relatively quiet. And the ride, this ride's so much better than the older Priuses did. That's the thing about Toyota. They're always perfecting things. Now we got it at a stop. Let's step on the gas and see what it can do. You heard it, burning rubber. Yes, this Prius does burn rubber. It does have acceleration. You can set it up for whatever mode you want. Great gas mileage or speed like I did. Most people are getting this. They want economy. This guy's an engineer. He likes fiddling with gas mileage. Once in town, he got almost 80 miles a gallon driving this thing. 80 miles a gallon. He was fiddling with all the buttons and going very conservatively, but it can be done. But even normal driving in town, you can get 55 miles a gallon or better. So not only does it ride smooth, it also handles quite well. I mean, it's not a Civic Type R, no, but it handles quite well. At highway speeds, it's nice. Now this particular one, you can hear a little bit more noise than normal, and that's because the tires are getting worn. And as tires wear, they make more noise. It was a lot quieter when it had brand new tires on it. And as you can hear now, it's on EV mode. You can hear the motors hum. In just EV mode, of course, it's the quietest. And here we are, going the speed limit, 35. Still electric power, no problems. It's not turning the motor on. Like I say, on a highway you can go 25 miles. Sometimes you can get a little further and stop and go because every time you stop, you're regenerating power into the battery. So you're not wasting energy stopping, it's just storing it back up again. That's how you can get fantastic city mileage, by this regeneration of electricity. And with the 8.8 kilowatt hours battery, this thing has a reasonable one. It's not the little 1.6 kilowatt hours that the earlier Priuses had that were strictly a hybrid car. They were not a plug-in. You couldn't run on electricity alone, and the ones that were set up that they could, they wouldn't go that far. This can actually be used. As long as your commute is less than 25 miles, you can easily plug it in at night to recharge it. It's still on electric power. Now my customer, being an engineer, he likes playing around with it, so he'd play with electric mode and the combo hybrid mode. And like I say, he once went over 800 miles before he had to put gas back in the car. And that's by plugging it into his house at night. There goes the happy music again. It fades away when you shut the car off. So as you can see, the bigger battery has a lot of advantages, but it has one gigantic disadvantage as it ages. When the battery goes out on this, I called Toyota. A brand new replacement battery for this is $10,705.93. So you're looking at over 10 grand for a brand new battery when it does go out. But my other customer got 250 grand out of his other Prius from the original battery, and he said if he gets 250,000 out of this, he'll be happy. He only paid like $25,000 for this car. Brand new. He looked around the country, and even though he's in Texas, he bought one from New Jersey. Now, as I say, this is kind of a niche car. As of 2018, the beginning, Toyota only sold 79,000 of these things worldwide and 46,000 Prius Primes in the United States as of the beginning of January 2018. They have a very nice niche for what it is. When you look under the hood, it's got the traditional Atkinson cycle engine, Gets better gas mileage because of its design. A hybrid electric system. This little battery is just a tiny auxiliary one. Toyota's been mass producing these Atkinson cycle engines and hybrid drivetrains for over 20 years. They have it down pat. Now Toyota, of course, is always improving things. This is 2017. The battery in the back is air cooled, but the newer ones are going to water cooled battery systems, so they have less overheating problems. Now a company like Tesla with their big batteries having almost 10 times the power of this, they have to use water cooling because they're so large, there's so much power involved. This air cooled one works perfectly fine, but Toyota decided, hey, let's make them water cooled as time went on to make them an even better vehicle. This Generation 4 is better looking. It rides better. It has more power. And like I say, can actually go 25 miles on electricity alone if you want to have a green car. It has a combined horsepower of 134 horsepower. But interestingly enough, it's got 225 pound-feet of torque. You know, I'd be driving it in the top mode all the time for the most acceleration so it spins the tires. My wife, on the other hand, would probably push the electric mode to see how long she could run on electricity alone. And even to run the air conditioner and stop and go traffic, if you just charged it up, you can easily go 24 miles before the motor turns itself back on. Like I say, with motor only, it's got a top speed of 80 miles an hour. This isn't one of these, you got to keep it under 20 or it'll go into the gasoline motor mode. No, it can go up to 80 miles an hour in electric mode only. So now you know the truth about this plug-in hybrid, so you can make a wise decision yourself. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.